Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gutterwise Marketing Podcast, where we are going to be interviewing very successful and very fun people from the gutter industry, learning where they're at now and how they got there. And today, I'm really excited to have Mr. Tony Cobb on the episode. A lot of you may know him, and I'm just super blessed to have him with us today. So, Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Me and Tony had a great conversation actually a couple days ago, and got to know each other pretty well. So I'm super excited to kind of dive into a little bit more of the business side of Mr. Cobb and get to know a little bit about kind of what he's doing here. So we're just gonna dive right in. So first off, for those of you who, or for those of the listeners that aren't familiar with you or kind of what you do, can you tell us a little bit about your current businesses and kind of where you're at right now?
Sure, I own all gutter systems in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and servicing the West Michigan area. And then I'm involved with the other product. We have an under deck Oasis, which is a product that goes underneath decks, keeps them dry. Um, those are my two main businesses. I have a small distribution business for a couple products I got involved with and patents, so I still sell those.
Awesome, awesome. And so, how did you get started in the trades way back in the day? What led to the starting of kind of this journey into the gutter industry?
Yeah, everybody's got a journey somehow or another. They start one place and end to another. Mine's kind of ended in the gutter world, but I kind of started off as a house painter, just in my college days, and I subbed out rain gutters, and to the point where it was more fun and more enjoyable to go solve water problems for people than it was to be a painter. And so in 1995, I went full bore in the gutter business with all gutter systems. Um, at My goal was to build it up to $1 million in 10 years, and basically did that in about 9 years and 7 months. I received an offer and sold it shortly thereafter. Got it back, so that I'm back in the gutter. Also involved with distributed products. Um, One was a gutter cover, and the other is now the Underdeck Oasis product. So that's what brings me to today.
Awesome, yeah. And so you started in the painting business. Why the switch into gutters? I mean, I know that you said that you kind of subbed it out for a while. What about gutters kind of made you switch from painting?
Sure. One of the things I like about the gutter business is that you get in, you get out, and you get paid. And you didn't have to worry about working on weekends because you had a rain day. You know, if it rains on you, you get a little wet, just open up the gutters and just blow through it, get through it. I just like the business. It's clean. People love it. They're in my market back in 30 years ago. That wasn't that many gutter companies. There wasn't a single gutter company that had their name on a truck. So I was like the first one to ever put vinyl graphics on a truck and trailer. Back when it was easier, of course, just a different time. That's how I got in the gutter business, and I just gave up painting.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Especially, I mean, back in 95, I'm sure, gutters really weren't as big nearly as what they are today. And like you said, you were kind of the first to do a lot of things. We had mentioned or you had mentioned in our conversation we had a couple days ago how you were the first to do a lot of different things, especially in the online space, kind of in that early 2000s phase. Uh, why were you guys so good at being first to market? What was that part of the business that you just kind of knew that this is going to be a big thing, so we're going to hop on this right away?
Well, nothing lasts forever. So it was like, oh, Yellow Pages will be around forever. Well, we all know that went out. But we got involved with internet marketing early. We actually had a friend of the family, or actually a family member, my brother's, was building websites, and he had a website. I had a website. It was here's a funny story with that. Is that my brother had radius gutters. He was one of the first people to advertise radius gutters on the internet, and this is back in 2000, maybe four. And so he had that. I happened to be on a road sales trip out in the Pacific Northwest, and he calls me up out of the blue. He says, "Hey, when are you going to be in Seattle?" I says, "Well, I'm there this weekend, and he told me that he had got a customer that wanted half round gutters put on a turret on their new house they were building. And he says, "Well, I already told her it was $300 a foot. She said it was 40 feet, so it's 12 grand plus another 500 for downspouts." And she says, "Well, what's the next step?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh!" He sells us over the phone, all off the first being on the online. So I got up there, measured it exactly, made a template because I was already there, and he sold the job for 12 grand. That was my brother Jeff Cobb, who's also a gutter guy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Three, that's a quite the price per foot that we don't really get nowadays, huh?
Actually, for half round copper, that's probably the market. For radius, yeah,
Okay.
that's not uncommon. If you had like yeah, that's about what it goes for.
Fair.
Radius.
I noticed a lot of government buildings or buildings that don't really that the organization doesn't want to have a lot of maintenance has a lot of copper, which I thought was really interesting because
Mm.
I wasn't expecting it for a lot of that. Like a lot of college campuses do, a lot of government buildings, at least where I'm at, have half round coppers, which is really interesting.
It is interesting to see different things in different markets. I
Yeah,
made my first trip really to last year to Europe. And when I was there, I didn't see anything but half round gutter on any building and anything in Germany.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so since you guys, you were first to internet marketing, you guys did really well there. What are a few other things in the past, 20 or 30 years that you guys have kind of seen being something that, oh, we got to get on that right away? What are a few of those things that you caught early in the gutter industry as a whole, whether it's related to marketing, product, service, whatever it might be?
Sure. I mean, there was a time where by doing the home shows, we got tons of lead. It was a great way for us to jumpstart our spring every year. Um, COVID kind of killed it for a lot of people, and we haven't really been doing it since then. So, Yellow Pages at one time, I was dropping $3,000 a month in advertising, but I've also had 90 leads come in one day off the Yellow Pages. 90, when it rains, cats and dogs.
For sure, for sure. And
Um, what else? I would say, all the stuff it's not like one silver bullet for marketing. It's more you've got to be doing a lot of things all the time. Uniforms, yard signs, vehicle graphics. You have to do everything. A good leave behind piece. You have to get a good presence. That way. Although I think there's no one silver bullet.
that makes sense. That makes sense. One of my favorite sayings is it's almost never one silver bullet, it's 100 golden BBs. So you have, a ton of different levers that you're pulling that kind of give you this opportunity to be everywhere all at once instead of the one thing that's just going to make your business fly. So that's one of my favorite sayings as well. But what do you kind of see now in today's day and age? What are you kind of seeing as the next thing? What is something that you guys are trying to jump on, or you think that other people should jump on when it comes to the next thing to kind of skyrocket the gutter industry?
It's definitely comes down. It's going to be social media. There's so much more going put into that. I like what Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank always says, Mr. O'Leary. He used to say that the best degree when someone would ask him if you're going to college, what you get as a degree, and it was always engineering. And he's now changed that after telling people that for 20 years. He's saying it's really getting good with a video and how to edit those kind of things. So we've actually have a step. We've actually have a green room at our location just for cutting videos and things, just to have it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Kind of just leveraging all those different types of multimedia on social media, being able to post video, being able to post, organic pictures and fun things like that, graphics and things. One thing that I've noticed has been really popular, especially in kind of home services in general, is literally when a business owner or an installer of some kind will just whip out the cell phone, right? And then record a quick video just like this with the selfie camera talking about the job that they just did or talking with the customer that they just, had an interaction with. Those types of videos I think are doing really well because it kind of shows the real side. People are really ad blind these days. So if they're scrolling through their feed or they're, in their social medias and they see something that looks like an ad, they're not going to stop and watch it. So the biggest thing is to create content that doesn't look like you're trying to advertise something. It just looks like you're trying to put stuff out there, put out content, put out fun videos, things like that. And so I love that you guys are leveraging that and have a dedicated green room. I think that's super fun. And I think a lot more contractors can get into that really easy. You don't need a green room, you don't need a whole media crew or anything. Like I said, all you need is a cell phone and a Facebook page at least, right? And then you can, throw up videos. It's really simple. And as long as you're comfortable being on camera and you can learn how to speak and you can learn how to leverage social media in that way, I think that's a huge opportunity as well. Agreed, agreed.
We do.
So what do you think is the biggest change that you've seen over the past 30 or so years in the gutter industry since 95? I mean, obviously there's been a ton of them, right? There's been the presence of the internet, there's been differences in pricing and just kind of the explosion of the gutter industry in general. But what's one of the biggest things that you think has made the most impact on the gutter industry in the past 30 years?
Hmm. Um, well, I don't think any one big major difference from what people that but no, there's no big change. The K style gutter that we're putting up, whether it's 5 inch, 6 inch, 7 inch, is the same as it was made really almost all the way down to the paint, all the way back to the late 50s.
Hmm.
So there's not any huge there. Of course, gutter protection, there's more gutter protection products and there's more profit for a gutter contractor with gutter covers than there is in the gutter. That's just it. That's you make more money on your downspouts than you do your gutter. Um, you make more money with the add-ons, right? Wherever that might be.
Yeah.
I go. I don't think there's any other. So, but gutter protection probably number one. Of course, you've got leaf filter out there. Had sales hit $1 billion in 1 year.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the big need. It's sad is that Google does not have a listing for gutter contractors. We're all listed as gutter cleaning services,
Yep.
which is funny because that's very small compared to the amount of gutters.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That definitely could be a change in the future if we see that type of lobbying towards Google specifically for, that type of Google business stuff for sure. Um, and so I like how you mentioned leaf filter has been kind of exploding in the gutter protection space. And obviously most contractors nowadays at least offer some sort of protection that they can use as sort of an upsell or an additional service that they can provide, which is great, right? Because it offers product differentiation. But the one reason, or at least one of the biggest reasons that Leaf Filter has been so successful is their ability to market, right? They're really good at media. And that's really the reason they've been able to grow extremely quickly, because they got really good at communicating value. Now, whether you agree with that value or not, you at least have to recognize that they got really good at that. So, what's one of the most powerful marketing levers that you think gutter contractors should be leveraging to compete with some of these big name people to, you know, get their names out there just as well?
You have to get there first in this day and age with a big competitor like leaf filter in the marketplace. Whoever gets there first is win. I literally have run a lead 4 hours after I got the lead, and leaf filter was already there and sold it. 4 hours. And I asked them how long ago, and they literally filled out forms, and 4 hours later they were sold. Unbelievable. Who gets there first wins.
Yeah, yeah. For speed to lead, right? That's the saying, speed to lead, making sure that you're there as soon as you can be, for sure. And so when a lot of people are also kind of looking at all gutter systems as kind of this, I mean, you guys are very large, comparatively to other gutter contractors in the industry, you guys are very large, and you were able to kind of dominate your market as well. And so, how have you been able to kind of keep out competitors throughout the years in your market areas from butting in and kind of taking over your market share?
I mean, there's market running machines to 6 machines a day. So there's a company's probably good over there, but they've got all
Oh, I think we lost you there for just a
companies that have.
second. I think we lost you there for just a second. Let's give it a
All right,
moment
I'll
and
restart
see
it
if
there.
we can restart that for a second. No worries.
All right, can you hear me now?
Awesome. Yes.
Can you hear
All
me
right.
now? Okay. All right, rephrase the question. You'll know what it is.
How you guys have been really good at kind of taking over your local market area and you've grown very large where you're at right now. And so how have you kind of kept those competitors in your market from sneaking in and taking a lot of market share and really staying the dominant player in your area?
Very consistent. You know, we have a strong builder base. 50% of our track homes. We don't know how to do any track housing, the cheap stuff. And we've had, I would say we've never been the low guy and never been the way overpriced guy. We've been really consistent. And so that gives you an anchor. And once you have that leads all of those businesses or companies, that pipeline. I've already paid the dues being in business for nearly 30 years and have a reputation. It makes it easier. So once you're already first in a marketplace, it's hard to you got to screw it up to lose it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially when, starting so early as you guys did, you kind of got to really mess it up to lose that early start that you guys have had, for sure, for sure. I really like this is something that me and you talked about previously as well, but the relationships perspective of, the suppliers and the people that you work with. I think that you just mentioned that now as well. So how has that kind of been a huge driver for All Gutter Systems and your other businesses as well is forging those relationships, and why do you think that pretty much everyone in the home services industry should follow in those footsteps?
Um, it's only good business practice. You know, if you come around, you have a good reputation. Pay your when it's your opportunity to do well, to do good to others, you do it. I make sure I pay all of our vendors immediately. Doesn't matter whether it's the guy working on the truck, we got a company coming through and washing the windows, or the office cleaner. Pay them right away. You'll always have good service. But those people that just like to, I'll send you the check kind of thing. Um, we pay our vendors. I pay my vendors immediately, even though we have 30 days on an invoice. We pay them end of the week. Whatever bills came in, we pay them on Friday. And so when there's a shortage of materials like COVID, I had zero problems of getting any material, whatever I want from a number of suppliers. Even if they weren't my main suppliers, they still delivered black coil because they want to earn my business. You pay them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how do you recommend that maybe contractors that are earlier in the game start to forge these relationships? What are some ways that you were able to do that in the beginning?
People do business with people, so get in front of them. Just like we said with the sales, you get there in front, go and talk to them. Just like you and I met. Hey, if we're going to get to know each other, let's do it face to face, right? So value that morning. I say good morning to every single person at work, even if they just got a new hire and I don't know who they are. Their manager has their picture up on the wall day one that morning. By the end of the day, they got the picture on the wall. So like, oh, who's this new guy? Okay, must be Mark. Okay, hey, good morning, Mark. Welcome aboard. So that happens.
Yep, I love that. People love doing business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? So if you can put yourself out there and like we said, get in front of them, just get to know them a little bit and kind of spark that connection, that's really the most important part. And I completely agree on that as well. That's one thing that I've been trying to do a lot in my business, and I know that a lot of other people that I've talked to as well have tried to leverage that, getting out there, going to the trade shows or going to, gutter events, things like that, just to get out there and show your face, be a real person, and that's what people appreciate. Um, speaking of people, this is one aspect that I think me and you really both love is the people side behind the business, right? So we talked a lot about people and employees and partners and things like that during our conversation earlier, but I would love for you to touch on how you were able to bring in great talent into All Gutter Systems and in Under Deck Oasis as well. How are you able to find these guys? What are you doing to kind of look for great talent and great people to bring into your organizations?
That's a tough question for a lot of people. I think I have, we have that turnover. You got to be turning over that bottom 10%. Those toxic people, slow to hire and quick to fire, right?
Yep, for sure, for sure. So, and are a lot of these people coming from maybe referrals? Are you getting referred to these people, or are you just taking your time to really go through, people that might be looking for this job and really just being thorough with your application and interview processes?
Well, I would definitely say we have a lot of referrals. We have that right on our application online. Where how were you referred, or how did you hear of us? And I would say 9 times out of 10, they already know somebody in the company.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
So I
that's
think
nice.
that's key.
That's nice. And so when you bring these people on, how are you able to kind of foster that amazing culture that you guys are kind of known for and that you yourself is kind of known for as well as being that, very fun, exuberant guy? How are you able to foster that in the companies as well and get people to put in that extra discretionary effort?
Yeah. I wish I could say the culture was as well, but whenever work gets tough, or gets the heat of the summer, it feels like you can just see the stress that brings on people. You do what you can and weed out the ones that are poison in the culture. I think that's probably the most important thing you can do is weed out the bad. So sooner rather than later. And sometimes it's hidden. You don't actually see it. Sometimes they kiss up and they push down, and like, wow, how can that person ever possibly be like that? When you hear the complaints from a third party, and you're like, but they're always kissing up to me, and they're always super friendly to me, but they're not that way with their fellow employees.
Mm.
You have to, if you hear it, especially if you hear it more than once, you pay attention to that.
Mm, definitely, definitely, especially if it's coming from, more than one employee or more than one customer even or things like that. That's definitely a red flag. Um, and so when you have these issues that come across your plate, whether in terms of, employees or customers or different interactions within the business with people, how have you been able to introduce this conflict and kind of make it the most beneficial for everyone, right? Making sure that everyone is getting the best outcome or at least the best outcome for the company.
Sorry, you bleeped out. Another call was bleeping in at the same time. Ask that question over again. I have
No
to do that
worries, no worries. I think I could phrase it a little bit better as well. So how have you been able to mediate conflict maybe between other employees or maybe there's been one of those weeds that has been there that has, been causing some problems with either other employees or customers. What
Yeah.
do you do? How do you approach that situation? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that is being able to approach situations in a kind and respectful manner, but still being firm enough to set some boundaries. How do you guys do that in your guys' organizations?
Oh, everybody handles it a little bit differently, but when it gets to me, um, you know, you got to seek out more understanding. I value everybody's opinion that's there, and if they're seeing something different, sometimes it's a matter of showing two people that are having a conflict, like, hey, this is how they're seeing it from their side, and this is from their side. Not saying you're wrong, not saying you're right. I'm just saying, he has something valid. Otherwise, he wouldn't be thinking that way. Or some people are like, oh, he's always mean to me. Like, well, that's not a real example, but if they're saying, well, why is he always mean to you? You know, why is that? Why do you have that impression? And I have some guys that is no longer with me now, but he would like, well, that's not what I meant. Well, that's what he understood, and that's what the common version of everybody says. That's how you're understood. So you're giving that information, or you're portraying that, whether you agree to it or not. They're still valid. So it gets deep in a interpersonal conflict. I've still yet to fight with my fiance, been out for 4 years, and I value her so much that if we have a conflict, I'm like, I want to see this from your point of view. How can you possibly see it that way? But I can get on her view. Oh, once I understand her, then I can understand her view. If you don't understand, a lot of times people just don't. They miss that step.
I love that. I love that. Really getting to know what the other person is thinking and why, right? And really getting to the root of the problem, not just service level. I love that. That's amazing. And has there been a lot of times where you've had conflict like this come up, or have you guys been able to kind of prevent this relatively?
I think we usually bite it right away. I mentioned to you before, it's like I do not like um, employee reviews. I prefer to let them know what's going on all the time.
Yep.
There should be no surprises, and put it on the wall. So if one guy is being late or a poor performer and he gets let go, there should be no reason why anybody was asking about that. Why did he get let go? You can see his performance. Everybody saw his performance. We're surprised it took you that long to figure that out. So.
Yeah, yeah, understandable, understandable. And I would love to kind of transition a little bit out of the detailed business questions and also ask a little bit about the kind of consulting and general industry knowledge that you have. I mean, obviously you've been around for quite a while and you've been able to talk to and mentor and be coached and coach many, 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 many gutter contractors. And so over your years, what has been probably the one or two greatest pieces of advices that you've gotten from maybe a mentor of your own?
I think I had the advantage of learning about business from a guy named Bruce Williams, who was a syndicated talk show host back in the 80s and 90s. And he had all kinds of business. I learned all about real estate, stocks, mutual funds, business formations, all of that information. I literally didn't catch it at school. I caught it while I was paid because I was painting. I used to do painting work and I would do it in offices, not have that going on in the evening. So one of the books that I picked up and read was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And that was transformed my whole business. So that alone, I think, is probably the most powerful. If you control your business, control your life. That's what it helped me so much. It was amazing. Then 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Just going back to seeking to understand before you're understood. And those are the kind of. I think those are probably the two most influential books.
Nice. That's awesome. Both of those are great. I'm familiar with both. The E-Myth is a great one for anyone out there who's looking to really get a grasp on what we were just talking about there. I love that book as well. Has there been any specific mentors that you've had in the past? I mean, you do a lot of coaching and consulting and mentoring for others. Who has kind of been your mentor throughout the years?
I like different mentors for different things, right?
Right.
Different life. um, for my outdoorsy life and mountain climbing, it would be my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Larwa. I had a Peter Van Button, a guy from in Grand Rapids. I did a lot of work for him. He was an architect, but a business owner as well. And I got a lot of one-on-one time with him in his retirement. And that was a great mentor in my life of, figuring out what I was going to do. Just good business. Nice to know somebody that's already successful.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And you are that for a lot of people these days, and you are kind of that mentor that people can look up to that's already been successful and has a lot of knowledge. What's some of the biggest or what's some of the most common things that people come to you with that, hey Tony, I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that. What's the most common one that you usually see?
It's the magnificent man. They have to do this, they have to do that, and they don't want to ever hand anything over. If you hand something over, they could break it, and most people are afraid to do that. And I think that's what the E-Myth addresses.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of that. So definitely that delegation piece of business, handing things over so you're not just doing everything yourselves. What's one of the things that you think people should delegate first then in their gutter business? If they're just, a guy and a truck and a machine, what's the first thing that you think should be delegated?
It's going to change at every level, right? One machine versus two versus three or four. It's just going to change. But you got to focus on what you're good at. And you have to. If it's accounting, it's accounting. If focus on what you know, what you're good at. But most business guys or most owners of gutter company to be successful, they have to be the rainmaker. Okay, everything else can be delegated, but the guy that's constantly over there finding new ways to bring in more work and recruiting good people. That's probably the number one thing you have to be the rainmaker. The technician, he's never going to value the sale. If all he is just another, a lot of guys, I'll do this myself. Well, there's a whole lot more. The install is probably the easiest part of the gutter business. It probably is.
For sure. Being the rainmaker, I love that. Making sure that you're the one taking control and really working on the business, not working in the business, right? Thinking of new ways to just keep growing and being better every day is definitely a point that I think that is true for all businesses, right? Especially in home service, because a lot of times we kind of forget that, yes, a lot of guys started that way, doing it themselves. It was just them and a truck and their tools or whatever. And then as you grow, it's hard to release some of those things. But I mean, I think delegation is one of the biggest tools that you can use to focus on more higher revenue generating activities than just going out there doing an install yourself, selling the jobs yourself, working the leads yourself, all of that stuff. So I completely agree. Well, if anyone wants to get in touch with you to maybe they have a question for you, or maybe there's something that they're struggling with, what would be the best way to get in touch with you to ask, or maybe see if they could coach you, or you could coach them?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Facebook, on the gutter installers page or the gutter owners page. Reach out to me, either one of those. It's probably the best way. Direct message me that way. Like I'm taking the call here this afternoon in my drive from another gutter company in Illinois. He's been asking literally for 2 months to try to get me on the phone and talk to him for a couple hours. But I'm like, okay, because I know once he starts, he's going to have a lot more questions.
Hmm.
When we start diving into his business on a consulting basis, which is, I do those on a select basis. I do enjoy my time off. I'm going to Europe for a month after the Gutter Summit. I'm going to, I spent 4 months on the Appalachian Trail earlier this year. I still run my business just with this good old phone in front of me right now.
There you go, right? That's the best way to do it. Just run it from the phone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is there any last piece of advice, any last words of wisdom from the great Tony Cobb that you want to leave for our listeners today?
I was at a job site this morning, and it would happen to be a Sunday, and I only done a couple of installs all year, but I had to do this one for a wedding for a previous customer way out in Denver, sort of an underdeck project out there. But ran into a guy who was also working on Sunday. He was the owner, and I was only there for just checking out what I was doing. I got work late last night, but he gave me some advice, and it says the difference is owners do, or winners do what others won't. He said losers don't. I changed it to winners do what others won't. And so whatever you got to do, that means if you're first starting business, um, just remember that you're going to get smarter. It will get easier the longer you do it. If you ever quit, everything you put into it's going to be gone. So you've done it for now. If you quit, so your story's not over yet. So I need to make it a good one.
I love that. That's one thing that you told me as well during our dinner that we had the other night is your story's not over. No matter what you're going through, no matter what tough times you're going through or what problems you're facing right now, your story's not over yet. So just keep going and make sure that you finish your story the way that you want to finish it. So I love that piece of advice, and that's something that I personally will be taking to heart in growing my own company. So thank you, Tony, so much for being on the podcast today. I got some value from it, obviously, and I hope all of our listeners also did as well. So again, thank you very much, and have a safe rest of your drive.
All right, thanks. Bye.